Good evening, everyone. If you've just joined us, just wanted to let you know we're going to wait about one more minute before we get started. All right. Well, welcome, everyone. It's very exciting to see so many familiar faces and names in the waiting room. And I'm just really excited to welcome you to this first, I don't know what we're going to call it. We'll come up with some cool jazzy name, but it's our first virtual meeting. There's been so many changes and so much going on that we really felt like it was time to update everyone on what's been going on and to answer questions. I know you have them. I've run into a few of you either walking around the neighborhood or at the grocery store, and there's always questions like, well, what about this and what about that? And I thought, geez, too bad I can't have these private conversations with every single one of you. Well, okay, here's a semi-private conversation where I can talk with you and let you talk to some of the just really great people we've got who are helping us manage what's going on here right now, both at Texas A&M and in our connection to our K-12 schools. And that's really what we want to talk to you about today. What does teacher training look like in a COVID world? I know you're hearing all these stories of schools starting to open, and it has so many implications, not only for our young children throughout the state of Texas, but for our teachers in training. And so a few notes before we really get into this. One, I want to make sure that you know that this meeting is being recorded, and we're going to upload it to YouTube after we're done. So you are welcome to go back and review it, look at it again. I did want to note that if for some reason you're uncomfortable with being on the video, please feel free to keep your camera off. Also, if you find that your broadband is a little spotty or goes in and out, it's often easier if you turn off your video and keep your audio on. Do try to keep your microphone muted during the presentation. As you came in, we automatically set you to mute, but we'd love to have you ask questions as we get toward the end. In the meantime, if you have questions while the presentation is going on, feel free to open up the chat, which is at the bottom of your screen. Typically, there's a little thing that says chat. Open that up. You can type your question to either everyone or to Jody Ford and Cassidy Caldwell. They will be looking at the chat, and they'll intervene or ask specific questions to the presenters if we need to, but at least we'll kind of know the kind of questions you have as we get to the end. We are going to answer all the questions even if we don't get to them tonight. We'll include them as an addendum and a follow-up, and also we'll give you the link for the video for tonight. So that's sort of our short plan of how this is going to work. I'll spend a few minutes introducing tonight's speakers. We'll do the presentations. They've been told to try to stay to 7 minutes, so we're going to work really hard to make this happen. And then we'll have time for questions and answers, and have a minute just to say thank you for all that you're doing in your home communities. I know not all of you are in College Station, but I look forward to hearing everything that's been going on since we last saw each other. So in case we have strangers on the call, my name is Joyce Alexander. I'm the Dean of the College of Education and Human Development here at Texas A&M University. Our goal tonight is to really update you on changes and things that are going on here at Texas A&M about teacher training in a COVID world. We've put together a great lineup of speakers. Our first will be Valerie Hill-Jackson. She is our Assistant Dean for Educator Preparation and Partnerships. She's going to talk to you about some of the new initiatives that are going on in teacher education, some of the changes that we have had to make, that Texas education agencies had to make, that everyone has had to make to get ready to do teacher training differently. Dr. Marsha Montague is going to speak next. She's going to talk about our Aggie homework hotline. We released a news story last week, and I hope you had a chance to look at it. Marsha's going to update us on sort of how things are going and what the first week of that has been like. And then Dr. Andy Kwok is going to talk to us about some of the kinds of changes that are happening. He's teaching one of the main teacher preparation courses here at Texas A&M, so he's going to update us on some of the things that we've done. Dr. Kay Wijikumar is going to talk to us about a few things, not only the teacher training that she's doing, but also this summer, she and her team put together a huge resource, both in English and Spanish, of lessons for parents to log on and to pull from to really help get them through the summer. Dr. Matthew Etchells is going to talk to us a little bit about some work he did with our student teachers last spring. He collected some data and they wrote up a nice reflective piece on sort of what it was like to student teach last spring as COVID interrupted everything. And then finally, Samantha is going to bring it home, and she's going to talk to us about what it's like to be a student teacher right now in the schools. And so I think with that, I will turn it over to Valerie Hill-Jackson.
Howdy, everybody. Good evening. And I want to say a special welcome to all of our friends of Aggie Land. So teaching and learning is different this year. And I don't need to tell you all who are on the line with us because your parents and grandparents, you know that things have changed in our schools. And so let's take a look at sort of the numbers, for example. Before COVID, we had about 1,500 student teachers in our pipeline, folks who are studying to become teachers. And due to COVID, we now have about 200 in our school district. So the number has dropped dramatically, about 90%. So what did that do for all of us? So what it did was sort of put us into a new mode of thinking about how to prepare teachers, quite frankly. And we had to get together and think about sort of virtual opportunities for our future Aggie teachers.
Hey, Valerie,
and this new time,
I don't want to interrupt, but I want to make sure everyone knows we didn't lose 1,300 teachers. We just weren't able to put them in the field.
Thanks, Dean. So look, let's really underline what the Dean is saying here. We had 1,500 of our students in the schools, PK through 12 schools. And because of COVID, they can't go there. They can't go there anymore. So now we as a college had to sort of rethink how we were going to engage and prepare our Aggies. So that meant 90% of them could no longer go into the PK through 12 schools, right? And now we only have about 200. You're gonna hear from one of those student teachers tonight, so you get a sort of a understanding of what those experiences are. But for the other 90%, we've had to sort of rethink how we sort of serve and sort of prepare those future Aggie teachers. So things are different, and we're thinking about how we can rise to the challenge. And I got to tell you, our staff and faculty are doing that work, and you're going to hear about that tonight. We're going to move to the next slide. So I want to tell you about some of the initiatives that are going on because of all of the changes. And even before COVID, there were some changes afoot. So when you want to become a teacher at Texas A&M and any place around the state and the country, there are these agencies, right, that sort of govern our work. The Texas Education Agency is that agency here in the state of Texas that sort of serves as our accountability officer, and they let us know sort of the do's and don'ts of the road. And so at A&M, we offer the degree, but the certification to become a teacher goes through Texas Education Agency. And their role is to make sure that we are compliant in terms of getting our student teachers prepared to be new teachers. They have undergone tremendous changes in the last 2.5 years. New frameworks for what and how we do things in terms of preparing teachers. And one of those changes is a new exam called the Science of Teaching Reading exam. And it has different frameworks and domains for preparing teachers. And it makes sense, right? In this new world, we know that literacy matters. And so this new Science of Teaching Reading exam will really prepare our students who are getting that standard teaching license and offer the kinds of competencies to prepare our student teachers. So we're excited about that, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done behind the scenes to get our teachers ready for that, or our future teachers ready for that exam. There's another exam that's also in the works behind the scenes that will become effective in a couple of years, and that's the EdTPA exam. And EdTPA stands for Educative Teacher Performance Assessment. So to be a teacher in the state of Texas, you have to take 2 basic exams. Now, there are a lot of exams, but for most teachers, it's 2 basic exams. There's a content exam, and then there's what's called a pedagogy or teaching and learning exam. And that exam is changing. It was a paper and pencil exam. But the change that is coming is more of a performance assessment. So just like doctors have to show what they can do and what they know, teachers now will have to show what they know in terms of, sharing in a lesson, so to speak. So that exam is new, exciting, and it's another sort of opportunity that our teachers will sort of have to get prepared to be teachers in the state of Texas. Science of Teaching Reading exam, and then the EdTPA exam. Lots for them to do. Now, there's behind the scenes a lot of technology that is needed to get sort of our teachers, our future teachers up to speed. And one of the platforms that we will be working with to help our teachers sort of to capture those lessons, to look back on them, reflect, to have a lot of practice at being a teacher before they go into the field. And that platform is called Go React. And so we're so excited that we'll be bringing this new platform to bear for our future student teachers in the college. So that's exciting as well. So new exams, new technology, and if that was not enough, we now have the new education degree. So imagine, if you will, if you're an engineering student, you get a degree in engineering. If you're a science student, you get a degree in science. But for decades, if you are an education student, you got an interdisciplinary degree. And I know what you all are thinking, what is an interdisciplinary degree? Well, that was a degree that one would get if you were becoming a teacher in the state of Texas. And the good news is that as of a year ago, all educator prep programs, we now get to reclaim the education degree. So as of 2021, anyone graduating from an ed prep program in the state of Texas will now be able to walk away with an education degree. And now that we have all these changes in terms of exams and technology and all the changes that TEA is pushing on us, we now get a chance, due to COVID, so to speak, to really think about how we prepare our teachers in a different and more profound way. For example, because of COVID, we've had to sort of rethink sort of the technology issues and preparation for our future teachers. And so we want to make sure that our teachers, with our new curriculum that we get to redesign because of this new education degree, that we now could offer a kind of curriculum that will prepare them to do this kind of work if they have to pivot to being online or in person or hybrid. We want to create that kind of triple threat teacher that's prepared to take on any challenge in any platform for the near future. So all of that is exciting. And then finally, an initiative that's very close to my heart. We know that in order for us to do our best work, we have to work along school districts and be partners in this work. We can't afford to work alone. And so when one becomes or is in the process of training to be a teacher, what we have to do is to make sure that they are learning alongside a great cooperating teacher or mentor. This summer, I am so glad to announce that we launched the We Teach Texas P12 Mentoring and Coaching Academy. And this academy offers a curriculum to help prepare folks who are doing this work anyway, but we get a chance to help them understand sort of the ins and outs of being a great mentor. So that academy began this summer, and we are offering it to all of the school districts around the state of Texas. So all of this is really exciting as we begin a sort of new era in teacher education. Thank you, Ms. Cassidy. And so now I want to turn over the reins to one of my colleagues, Dr. Marsha Montague, who's going to talk to you all about the Aggie Homework Helpline.
Howdy, thank you all for being here this evening and for the opportunity to share with you our exciting new Aggie Homework Helpline initiative. As Dean Alexander stated, my name is Dr. Marsha Montague. I'm a clinical assistant professor in the educational psychology department. A central focus of my work is pre-service teacher preparation. And in alignment with that focus, this summer I participated in the College of Education and Human Development Town Hall meeting alongside school district partners, nonprofit organizations, and businesses, where we discussed teacher preparation in a pandemic. In a breakout group that allowed an opportunity for specific discussions related to supporting families, the theme came through loud and clear that families and students throughout Texas need support as schooling is taking on different forms and many students are learning at home online. From these discussions, the Aggie Homework Helpline idea emerged. A team of faculty, staff, and students have worked hard for just under 6 weeks to bring the idea to life. Our program launched last Thursday, September 17th. At present, we have 114 tutors in place who are fully trained and ready to support Texas students. Each TAMU student received training on approaches to support English language learners, as well as students with disabilities. They also received training on how to utilize the Zoom platform features for effective tutoring. Each homework helper has also cleared a criminal background check. Through the end of this summer, they are anticipated to offer up to 330 free recurring 1 hour-long tutoring sessions and 680 free on-demand 30-minute tutoring sessions. In total, we anticipate over 650 hours of tutoring to be provided free of charge to Texas pre-K through 12th grade students prior to Thanksgiving. And at last check, we had over 500 families who have indicated an interest in their child or children receiving homework help. Our homework helpers are Aggies who believe in selfless service and come from 2 types of programs. Program 1, homework helpers come from the Texas A&M University Reads and Counts program and are part of a long-standing institutional commitment to community service. Traditionally, these tutors work at 26 locations throughout Bryan and College Station, but because of COVID restrictions, tutors are placed at only 3 locations in person this fall. Our remaining tutors are eager to begin serving kinder through 6th grade students virtually via the Aggie Homework Helpline. Reads and Counts tutors receive financial aid in the form of work study, and these work study funds pay 100% of the tutor's wages, so tutors are available at no cost to families and students. Although some reads and counts tutors are education majors, others are studying various majors at Texas A&M. Regardless of their area of study, they all have a shared passion for assisting students to become successful in school and advancing their reading and math skills. Parents and students can set up recurring tutoring sessions with a reads and counts tutor between the hours of 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, depending on their availability. Our Program 2 Aggie Homework Helpers include education interns that collectively are available Monday through Thursday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Fridays from 8 to 5. These homework helpers support elementary, middle, and high school students in most subject areas. These College of Education and Human Development undergraduate students are studying to become teachers and other professionals who will work with children and families. Interns have a variety of emphasis areas of majors that they're studying, such as special education or bilingual education. And they're volunteering their time with the Aggie Homework Helpline as a component of practicum requirements for one or more courses that they're currently taking at Texas A&M. Texas pre-K through 12th grade students are able to receive tutoring in math, English, Spanish, science, social studies, research skills, time management, organization, and more. Texas students can schedule a Zoom room or telephone conversation with a pair of Aggie homework helpers to discuss any homework questions that they have. Pre-K through 12 students can share their screen and send photos of their homework pages with the helpers so students can get specific assistance. Aggie homework helpers are also creating resources over important concepts that might cause homework issues for students. If a parent or student in Texas has a particular topic or concept request, they can email a help ticket to Ask AHH, and our homework helpers will create a video to explain that concept. These resources will be added in an ongoing fashion to the Aggie Homework Helpline website and will be freely available to anyone. I hope you are as excited as I am with the Aggie Homework Helpline. Even during a pandemic, Texas A&M University students are stepping up to the plate to assist pre-K through 12 students throughout Texas. And through their efforts, they grow and develop as future educators and leaders. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have.
Thank you, Dr. Montague. You have worked tirelessly on this project, and your vision and your leadership is most appreciated. So I hope you all have questions for Dr. Montague about the Aggie Homework Helpline. Next, we have Dr. Andrew Kwok talking about the changes in teacher education coursework.
Howdy, everyone. Again, I'm Andy Kwok, and I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Teaching, Learning, and Culture, focused both in research and in teaching on teacher education and beginning teacher preparation. Valerie, a couple slides ago, did a good job in terms of explaining all the different initiatives that are happening within teacher ed and our specific program. And as one of the faculty members, we have to take the brunt of doing all those policies and making sure everything happens nice and neatly within our courses. And so even before COVID hit, we knew all these things were kind of coming, and we knew and anticipated a lot of different changes this coming semester. Now you add in the fact that 90% of those pre-service teachers can no longer go into the field, where we have utilized their opportunities for them to observe and reflect and begin understanding the profession in authentic settings. And no longer being able to do that, we need to think of alternative measures in order to make sure that they are getting the same or as equal as possible of a learning development and trajectory this semester and possibly next semester as compared to those who would typically go into the field or into one of the classrooms. And so for myself, I teach one of the early courses. It's a 3-semester program. So I deal with the first semester of pre-service teachers who begin coming into the program, and they are in the fields 1 day a week. The second semester, they're in the field 2 days a week. And then finally, the last semester, they're there full time. But these early field experiences all got wiped out. And so we need to think about comparable experiences in order to give them that same experience so that they can be prepared to go into clinical teaching and eventually enter the profession. So we had a couple of things in mind that were provided to us a little bit beforehand and amongst some of these changes that were happening. And the one that you see on the screen is one called SimSchool, and that's a virtual simulation that allows our pre-service teachers to begin to start to interact and begin thinking from a teacher's perspective of how to handle different situations within the classroom. There are a multitude of different modules that us instructors can choose from, and my courses deal a lot with the idea of classroom management and how do we handle 20, 30, 40 kids in a classroom and dealing with those complex behavioral situations. And so we started to implement these to our pre-service teachers, and what it does is it opens up a classroom in which they see all these different students that you see on the screen, and each of the students actually has their own individual personality, avatar, and information in which the pre-service teacher needs to look and pretty much gather their bios to figure out how best to teach them, how best to manage them, and work in integrating a lesson throughout the entire time. And so it's been an interesting experience in terms of trying to figure out how to both navigate this technology as well as be able to use it for enhancing and allowing them to grow in their management skills. Teachers, some of them love it, some of them don't. But it's just taken a little bit of time to figure out how can we get somewhat comparable experiences in order to make their learning somewhat the same. Another resource that we've been using is something called Atlas TI, or Atlas, and the logo is at the bottom. And what it does is it's a video repository where there are hundreds of videos that are approximately 15 minutes long of expert teachers teaching in the classroom. These are all, most of them are nationally board certified, and it provides an authentic view of what teaching is happening in classrooms, and it gives our pre-service teachers a chance to see pedagogy in action. It also provides them with a reflection piece at the end of the teacher who is teaching, of explaining the entire context, giving information about the lesson. And in reality is, while this is also a good opportunity for them to begin to see pedagogy, it's actually also preparing them for EdTPA, which Valerie had mentioned before, where we're working towards assessing teachers towards more authentic practices and the acts of pedagogy, as opposed to solely taking the traditional certification exam, which is about 3 to 5 hours long, and it's paper and pencil. We're working towards more authentic practices that allow them to practice and get better in the work of teaching, as opposed to just focusing on the theory and the knowledge. So Atlas has been another great resource that has been, again, it's not necessarily the same where we have 15-minute videos and we can watch a couple of them each week where we discuss or have them write reflections, but get them some opportunity to interact and see and observe authentic teaching practices that are happening in classrooms so that they can learn and grow during this early formative time in their professional career. One other thing that I kind of wanted to mention, I mean, at the bottom are all the different types of resources that we've been trying to integrate into our teacher ed courses in order to give our students as authentic of experiences as possible. Is one thing that for me that is, I wanted to take advantage of this virtual world, is that now we are no longer held by the physical spaces that are happening here. So I threw out a call to old colleagues and peers to bring in kind of a guest speaker series that allows, okay, I told them we have pre-service teachers who are no longer able to go into the field. Can I have old educators or current educators come in and share their experiences and allow them to reflect and provide recommendations for these pre-service teachers to learn and grow. So I've had a couple guest speakers from, we've had previous teachers from Houston ISD, College Station ISD, Bryan ISD, and then we'll have an assistant principal, or sorry, a principal from California, an elementary school teacher from Kentucky, trying to utilize this virtual space towards our advantage and allowing our pre-service teachers to see a variety of different contexts and be able to interact with people that they probably wouldn't normally have had if we had these face-to-face spaces. So despite some of these challenges and all these continuous changes that are happening, I think a lot of the faculty and the instruction that is happening has done a nice job in pivoting and making sure that our pre-service teachers are still getting complementary experiences that allow them to practice and allow them to start going into the field right now. And I'll pass it over to Valerie as my child comes in and disrupts me.
Thank you, Dr. Kwok, for sharing all of the sort of changes that have occurred as we've had to make the pivot from going into the schools and now just having to go into sort of virtual opportunities. So thank you for sharing that. Can I just share as well that nothing takes the place of being face-to-face, that our teachers need, or our future teachers need to be engaged in the K through 12 schools. We understand that, that those experiences face-to-face matter. And we're not trying to, at any stretch of the imagination, replace virtual long-term. This is what we've had to do because of where we find ourselves in these times. And so we can't wait to get back to the K through 12 schools. But in the meantime, our instructors and professors are working really hard to provide authentic and meaningful experiences. Now we're going to turn it over to Dr. K. Wijakumar.
Howdy, everyone. My name is Kay Wijakuma, and I represent a dedicated group of faculty, students, teachers, and school administrators who are focused on eradicating illiteracy. Our literacy team uses evidence-based practices to improve reading and writing for all learners. Our success has been widely acknowledged by our school partners, legislators, the U.S. Department of Education, and U.S. News and World Report. Today, I'm here to share with you how our team overcame the pandemic, Texas A&M style. In February 2020, we're well on our way to helping over 5,000 children across the state of Texas and New Mexico. Our work focused on reading and writing at both elementary and middle grades. Everything was on track to be yet another banner year for us. Most of the students who work with us are at 100% pass rates. So along came this invisible virus and brought all of our schoolwork to a halt. And we got a call from our funding agency, the U.S. Department of Education, asking if we wanted to go into a hibernation year where we wouldn't do any work in the schools. I happened to have a meeting with Dean Joyce Alexander around that same time. And I told her that, we have sophisticated web-based intelligent tutoring systems that are designed exactly for these types of scenarios. And you all know Joyce. She said, of course, go for it. Don't take a hibernation, just move forward. So by March 2020, our team had set an aggressive timeline to produce and deliver teacher professional development using synchronous Zoom, just like we are doing today, integrated with web-based intelligent tutoring systems repurposed for teachers. So not only would teachers actually do something, listen to what we're saying, but they would actually practice and do small group activities where they would actually practice and deliver, reflect, get feedback from their peers and expert leaders. So we planned the whole thing out, and we reached out to a couple of our school districts and asked them if they would like to proceed with the planned professional development for the summer. And both the schools said yes. So we decided to move forward, and we planned our first PD for May 26th and 27th, completely virtual but synchronous. And we started with the registration process, and the deputy superintendent from that school district, by the way, she's an Aggie, called me up and said, well, we said we were going to get 100, but do you think you could manage 200 teachers? So of course my team said, sure, why not, right? So we actually planned this out. We planned 10 people in each small group. We got 20 members of our team together, including faculty, doctoral students, expert teachers, and consultants to run the event. And we planned the small group instruction, made sure that we had all the materials ready and mailed to each attendee before they came in. And we also planned specific breakout sessions by grade level and by language, so English and Spanish. All was on track till 3 days before the PD. The same deputy superintendent calls me up and says, well, by the way, we sent it out and said A&M was going to offer the PD, and now we have 300 people signed up. What do you think you could manage that? Of course, we're not going to say no. So my team said, yeah, let's just go for it. We couldn't find any more people, but we added more people to the small group instruction. At 8 a.m. on the 26th of May, we started the PD. These are full day PDs, by the way. And we were quite, we were not sure how this was going to play out. And I can tell you that not only were we blown away, but every single attendee stayed through the entire session and participated so actively that by the time we logged out on the 27th at 3:30, everybody stayed on the Zoom and wanted to continue to talk to us. It was just unbelievable. I wrote an email to Joyce that night going, this was the most amazing PD that we've ever done. Well, it was so successful that the superintendent called me up and said, would you offer yet another event in July? We had another 300 teachers. A word also got around, so the Texas Association for Literacy Educators, they're called TAIL, they asked us if we would do the same event for them because they had to cancel their annual conference due to COVID. And we got calls from the International Dyslexia Association, the European Literacy Network, the Rotary Club, all asking about this because they had got word from people who attended the PD how amazing this was. And so we ended up setting up 3 additional events, which all sold out in 24 hours. Added 3 more events. We ended up offering 8 events during the summer, all 2-day PDs, and trained over 2,400 teachers, 2,100 of them in the state of Texas, the rest of them from 13 other states and 7 countries internationally. We had teachers from Jamaica joining us, from the Philippines joining us. And it was the most unbelievable event. And through this, we also realized that parents and children were struggling. So we created the same resource library that we were preparing for the teachers. We made it in Spanish and in English, and we made the resource library available for parents and students to access from home. And to date, we checked it today, we had over 140,000 downloads from our system of materials, of lessons. We have poems in there, we have science passages, we have social studies passages. We show the child how to read, how to generate a main idea or a gist. We show them how to make inferences. We interact with them using Nearpod and other tools. And we prepared every teacher to take the full set of resources to their classroom on day 1, regardless of whether they were doing online or face-to-face, or they were doing a mixed bag. Whatever, every teacher that came through our PD was prepared with every necessary resource. By the way, we planned their textbook materials for them. We went out and created the PowerPoints, the Nearpod activities, everything that they would need to go live, whether they were going face-to-face or online. And so we have had an amazingly successful summer. And if any of you would like to see our resources, we would be happy to make them available to you. All in all, we've done what Aggies do best, gig 'em, not give up during a pandemic.
Thank you, Dr. Wijakumar, for staying focused on serving children and families around the state and around the world. Thank you so much. We want to share a testimonial about the great work that you do. So Cassidy, if you will, could you play a little video for us?
any training that you go to is only as good as the people presenting it. And so thank you very, very much. And I love the opportunity for this big group discussion and then to be able to do that breakout sessions. I've been getting texts and emails on the side from teachers and principals, and they've just been very, very excited because, you know, we're very protective about the plate because a lot of times their plate is overfilled. And so we did not, and I think Kay and I really were on the same page that we didn't want it to be more where the teachers felt like. And I know that they're asking a lot of questions. The when is right now the big question. And so I've already been talking to my team on the side because we want to stay true. We want to be doing this with fidelity the way that you have trained us and guided us through. But I think we also appreciate the authenticity and the way that you're offering support, that this is not just a 2-day training. See you in August. Good luck. Many of you guys have shared your numbers. Many of you guys have shared your emails and have offered to do personal one-on-one and just to continue to refine their craft. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much. And I try not to be an emotional person, but you guys are bringing me to tears as well, just because, and it's with sheer gladness. And just thank you. Thank you for allowing our paths to cross. Thank you for loving our kids already, that you're willing to put the work in to help us provide the best that we can. Our GP kids need the best of the best, and we have to do it right the first time around. And so thank you.
All right, everyone. If you're all thinking, does Dr. Wichakumar ever sleep? No, she does not. She is very passionate about the work that she does. Thank you to Dr. Wichakumar, Dr. Kwok, and Dr. Montague for staying focused on our future teachers and the great work that you all do. We're going to move now to Dr. Matthew Etchells. When COVID hit, we had students in the field. He's going to share a little bit about his research. And Dr. Etchells, you want to take the mic?
Hey, howdy. Good evening, all. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Dean Alexander and Dr. Hill Jackson, for creating this space where we can have this conversation and share our time. So we conducted this research in sort of mid-June, July, and we got it out the door pretty quick. Normally with research, it would take about 90 days, is what all the books say for a research cycle and writing up the paper. We did this in 10 days. And some of the researchers are with us tonight. They're joining us. So we looked at a couple of research questions. One was, how were educators and students navigating COVID-19? That was something that was important to us. How were they processing COVID-19? And then how are they coping with COVID-19? And there's a backstory to this research that should be shared really quickly. All of the participants in the research and all of the co-authors were also 4+1 students in the master's program at A&M in curriculum instruction, bar one person, which is my colleague, Dr. Erin Singer. So it's 3 generations of master's students coming together and having a conversation around research. And I think it attests to the collegiality of the college. The different generations and different cohorts of 4+1 master's students came together to talk about their shared experience. And when we talk about narrative, when we talk about narrative inquiry, there's a couple of things that are, evening Jordan was on the paper as well. There's a couple of things that are important to think about. One is it true? And one of the things that we say in narrative inquiry is it's truth-like or true for now. And one of the things that will resonate with you about this research is that as I go through the research and I talk about it, you will say to yourself, that's how I feel. That's how I felt in June, July. That's how I feel now. I think this is what's happening for me as well. What I will say at the end of the research is that all of the folks who took part in the research are teaching now, are out in the field, or they're in our program getting ready to teach, or they've had a long career in teaching. And one of the positives to take away from this is everything that has been hurled at educators this summer and all of the expectations that we've set upon them. Nobody from this research has walked away from education. They've all taken it on the chin and kept on on trucking. And I know being English, it's a cliche, but we've all kept calm and carried on. So, so that's kind of the way the research has gone. In terms of navigating COVID-19, a couple of the writers on the paper said that their children were experiencing regressive behavior. So students that were really past that point had gone back to thumb sucking, tantrums, not being able to cope. Microphone's not working, camera's working. I'm sure at some point during our meetings, we've seen similar behavior. At some point with the frustration seeping out, maybe not the thumb sucking, but some of the behavior. There you go, Dean, I stand corrected. But some of the other behaviors of people getting frustrated, things not working, not being able to do stuff. One of the things in terms of processing that happened was that a lot of schools, because this happened so quickly, communicated via email, or there were late night meetings on the weekend, and this was really pushed through very quickly in terms of school policy, because schools didn't have policies for this. There was no handbook you can grab and go for a pandemic. So a lot of this was done by email, and a lot of it on teachers. They were told, get on with it. A couple of the outcomes that happened were some students dropped off the radar. I know that HISD reported a large number of students who they'd not been in touch with for a number of months, and some of the writers on the paper had also expressed some students dropping off the radar, or the only method they could get to get their education was to come to the school and pick up packets. So they're putting themselves at risk, they're putting their teachers at risk. Some educators were sitting by the side of the road at a table handing out packets. So it was a real quick move going across this. A couple of things we looked at in terms of how people were coping and how we were coping ourselves, and we all the writers on the paper, we took these surveys ourselves. So we looked at a quality of life survey, and we also looked at the Holmes Rahe stress inventory as well, which has 43 stresses on it. And we found that 4 of the 7 had signs of secondary traumatic stress. So that's similar to PTSD, where you are experiencing, you're absorbing all the stress. Some of the teachers wrote about seeing their children crying, seeing teachers crying sometimes in meetings, people not being able to cope with what was going on. And then they absorb all of that. And then the bell rings and you go to your next class. So there was this kind of accumulative stress that was leading to trauma. And one of the things that was really valuable for us in the research when we got together in our Zoom meetings was to call it by its name, which, you know, if you've experienced trauma at any point in your life, you know that naming it by its name is integral to understanding what's happening. And we didn't feel it was going too far by naming the paper and naming the research synchronous teaching, asynchronous trauma. And we thought that was quite a good message for how we were meant to be teaching, and then what was happening in the evenings and the weekends with people trying to cope. A few of the outcomes were that people were experiencing burnout. People were experiencing compassion fatigue. So just that general feeling of numbness was felt by some of the educators, some of the teachers. Moreover, that regardless whether we were research staff, neophyte teachers in their first year, or experienced teachers, we were all experiencing varying degrees across both surveys. A couple of pieces to carry forward that we'd like to look at. We're looking at now replicating this research on an international basis. We've lined up about 7 or 8 teachers in the UAE who are interested. There's a couple of teachers in Japan who are interested in replicating this data. So it'd be interesting to see what this looks like globally and how teachers in different countries are experiencing this data. For us, we'd like to do a quick check-in with ourselves, maybe a 6-month-on paper. Where are we now? We wrote the paper right at the height of everything getting shut down, and as schools were closing, as people, the first weekend of having to meet students' needs. So that was really the boiling point for educators, and we captured that moment in the paper. And then also the other piece for us as well is, what does this do for teacher identity? How has this shaped teacher identity in the US? The teaching field for a number of years has depended on a large number of teachers coming into the field to counter the high attrition rates. If we don't have a large number of teachers coming in, that creates a follow-through issue for the school as a system. So we really need to think about, what is this first year in terms of the identity of educators, because it will have shifted. That first year of going into the classroom, and one of the participants, Katie, and I'll finish by reading this to you, one of the participants, Katie, her comment, her quote really summed up kind of where a lot of us were at and how a lot of initial neophyte first year teachers feel. So she wrote, COVID-19 has stolen both my precious time with my first class and any sense of finality or accomplishment that comes with surviving the first year of teaching. Instead of worrying about surviving teaching, we're worrying about surviving this virus. We are not all in the same boat, but we're all in the same sea, some by yacht, some by boat, and some by clinging to whatever floats out their way, fighting with all our might. So that was one of the things that Katie wrote. It sounds bad, but it's quite positive, because I will say, and I'll close with this, the teachers who wrote on the paper, and it was a limited sample, they're all still teaching now, they're all still in the field. So I think it speaks well to the degree of resilience that teachers have, and I think it speaks well to Texas A&M University and the College of Education for the degree of resilience that we instill in the teachers at this college and in this university. So even though it's negative, the paper's quite somber in a lot of places. It has quite a good silver lining, the fact that they're continuing in education. So
Dr. Etchels,
thank
you so much. Thank you so much. And I think what your work does, it sort of highlights the fact that these are not easy times. And we have to be very conscious of the content, but also of the feelings and character and the emotions of our neophytes as well. So we're paying attention to the whole teacher, right? As opposed to just the professional side. We have to pay attention to the personal side as well. Thank you for reminding us of that. I want you all to keep your questions going. Mr. Jody Ford, who's with development for our college, is capturing your questions in the chat, so keep them going. So we've saved the best for last. We have someone who's in the field, so to speak, and she is going to share her story with us. Miss Samantha Siebenaler, please, you have the floor.
Awesome. Howdy. So to start, my name is Sam Siebenaler. I'm a senior from Germantown, Wisconsin, and I'm actually part of the Aggie Term program through the College of Education and Human Development here at Texas A&M University. So for those of you that don't know, Aggie Term is a teacher education residency model that provides undergraduate education students like myself with a year-long clinical residency in the Bryan or Caldwell Independent School District. So to kind of start off my story, this past March, I made the decision to apply for Aggie Term. And I have to tell you, I'm a couple months in, but it has been the best decision that I could have made for myself and for my future career as an educator. So Aggie Term has so many benefits that a lot of individuals do not know about. After doing my research, I realized that this program would be a perfect fit for me. This program provides residents like myself with a phenomenal mentor teacher, a school laptop, professional development opportunities in the summer and throughout the school year, a stipend, and an authentic year-long clinical teaching experience. So going off of that, as an Aggie Term resident, I am taking classes at A&M on Mondays, and then on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I am in the classroom and I am observing, teaching, and learning from my mentor teacher and her other colleagues as well. So if you are in junior methods, you are in the classroom once a week. And right now I'm in senior methods and you're supposed to be in the classroom twice a week. But because of COVID reasons, no senior methods or junior methods students are allowed to go into the classroom or into the field. So I feel very fortunate. Not only am I getting extra experience, but I'm also able to be there 4 times a week instead of just 2 days a week. If anyone knows of any junior methods student or any other undergraduate students, I highly recommend encouraging them to apply for Aggie Term because it is an amazing opportunity that most individuals do not get to receive. So going off of that, this year in particular, Aggie term residents are the only junior and senior method undergraduate students that are allowed inside of the classroom. And that is a huge deal, like I stated before. Aggie term residents, us being the only ones in the field, I'm able to share my experience with y'all. So this year, I'm actually in a 5th grade classroom. It's a math classroom at the Caldwell Intermediate School District. And it has been very different than my other field experiences. And it has been difficult and challenging as well. So due to COVID-19, there are a lot of changes. For example, water fountains are completely turned off. There is plexiglass, as you can see in the picture. There's plexiglass between each and every student in their own workspace. And every student is in charge of wearing a mask at all times, whether they are inside or outside. So teachers are in charge of cleaning the tables, the desks, any shared materials. So that includes pencils and plexiglass between each and every class. So this takes up a lot of time and a lot of learning time in particular, but these procedures have to be done. Teachers have also been advised not to allow students to pass out any materials, so journals can't be passed out by students, and activity sheets as well, worksheets, things like that. The teacher has to pass out everything. If a student needs their pencil sharpened, the teacher also has to sharpen that for them. They can't do it themselves and be walking around the classroom, including if they have to throw something away as well. The teacher has to grab it and then throw it away. So this takes up valuable learning time as well. Like I stated before, every student is required to wear masks, but going into this, I thought this would be a huge challenge and struggle, but I have not found this to be difficult whatsoever. Students are very responsive to this procedure and very respectful, and they understand that this is to ensure everyone's safety. Another big challenge with COVID-19 is teachers are experiencing a lot of challenges with technology. For example, students that are completing school at home or virtually at their house, either they aren't logging into Google Meets or Google Classroom on time, they're having wireless issues, they're not completing their work on time, similar to students that are in the classroom. So it's just a big struggle between the teacher communicating with the parents and the students that are at home completing their work online. It's also a struggle to create that user-friendly learning environment with a Google Meets. It's just not the same. Similar to this meeting, it's very different if we were in person than via Zoom. So Caldwell Independent School District is also a one-to-one campus, which is awesome. So those of you that don't know what a one-to-one campus is, it is where every student has their own Chromebook or laptop. And this is an awesome opportunity that Caldwell was given, but it also creates a lot of challenges because students are going on websites and other things during class when they are supposed to be focusing. So just the integration of technology has been a struggle inside of the classroom. Also, every teacher in the Caldwell School District has a smart board inside of their classroom, and that's used to record lessons for any at-home learners that they do have. So teachers are continuing to learn how to utilize these devices to the best of their abilities, but I'm super thankful for some of the courses that I took at A&M. Like the speakers said previously, Nearpod and other websites like that, we've actually studied and learned about, and I've been able to take those websites and bring them to different collaborations and meetings and talk to the other teachers about utilizing those websites in the classroom. So To kind of finish up, I know there have been a lot of struggles, procedures, and challenges in the classroom today, but the Aggie Term program is allowing me to observe and to teach and to gain experiences that not a lot of other people have the opportunity to do during this different and difficult time. So that about sums it up. If y'all have any questions for me or any of the other speakers, feel free to throw them in the chat and I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. I appreciate your time. Everyone, thank you for all that you've done. I'm hoping that you can see me because I am not showing up on screen, but all right, good. So we do have a few questions, and so if you wouldn't mind, if I call on you, you can either come on screen or if you don't feel comfortable coming on with your video, at least turn your mic on. So I'm going to go from the beginning, and some of these questions that we've captured throughout the evening have been asked and answered. But one question that came out at the very beginning that Chelsea Katz, and if Chelsea is still on the call, she had sent a question when she registered about, she asked, how are student teachers able to still get classroom training during a pandemic with so many new policies and procedures?
Hi there.
Chelsea, did I capture your question correctly?
Yes, that was perfect. Just, you know, with those who are not able to be in the classroom and get that that in-person, face-to-face training, you know, kind of some of the alternatives that are available.
Very good. Thank you for your question, Chelsea. So we're going to shoot that question to Dr. Kwok. Dr. Kwok, you want to talk about that for a sec? Sort of a recap?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, it's really tough to make up the full experience that they would have had in the classroom. And there is no denying that trying to consolidate 8 to 16 hours a week in the classroom where you're interacting with students and a mentor teacher and trying to push that towards some sort of technological resource, there will always be kind of a loss in development that's happening. But with hopefully the integration of things like SimSchool as well as Atlas and having them see these different videos of teachers, expert teachers being able to reflect and discuss what that could look like helps to compensate that for at least a little bit, as well as using some of these other resources that Sam has mentioned, like Nearpod and our change over to Canvas. We've started to use more just technological resources like videos of other teachers that are doing that are teaching within the classroom and videos of just other experiences. So it's never going to fully make up for what should be happening, but we're doing our best to try to compensate in the meantime and think of just alternative measures to get them to not only see, but also to observe, reflect, and be able to practice some of these things so that they can be fully ready before they go into either clinical teaching or the profession.
Thank you.
Dr. Wichakumar, did you want to add to that?
Yes, so we've also purchased and given out over 200 swivel devices. Swivels are webcams with a little bit of a necklace that a teacher wears around their neck, and they are also given an iPad to go along with it, and the iPad actually is on a tripod and it moves around with the teachers. So what we do is we provide these to the teachers, and our student teachers and our observers can actually log in and be actually part of the classroom without physically being present. So this has provided us some very nice resources to provide some of our pre-service teachers as well.
Are there any other faculty members that would like to chime in on that question before we jump to the next one?
You know, I only want to say, Jody, that I think Valerie captured this accurately, that our goal would be to have our pre-service teachers in the field, getting the experience we know helps prepare them to be the best teachers they can be. But the school districts are dealing with physical distancing requirements. Some of them are all online anyway. So we are trying to do the best with our partners to help them. Many of our folks are helping, even our student teachers are helping run the virtual part of the classes while the teachers are doing the face-to-face and vice versa. We're trying to be the best partners we can be in these very crazy times.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, if I may, that while the Aggie Homework Helpline usually is working with sophomore level students and they're beginning to develop their teaching skills, this is getting students the opportunity to interact with a pre-K through 12 student and work on their teaching skills. So it serves the dual purpose of both supporting children throughout the state, but also our pre-service teachers in developing their skills. So it's another way that, although we're not physically in the schools, we're able to meet needs.
Yes, Dr. Marsha Montague, I wanted to piggyback on what you just shared, that it's really important for us to sort of think about ways that we could pivot and offer these kind of opportunities that would serve as kind of a placeholder, but they'll go away when COVID's gone. And guess what, everybody? It's going to be a new day and we'll be going back into the field. But until then, we had to work really hard in figuring out what we could do to support our neophytes and the training that we know that they need. When this is all said and done, a lot of these programs will go away, but some of the programs that we are sort of trying out will be here to stay. And that's sort of the good news of COVID. For example, the Aggie Homework Helpline, that's an online resource for families all across the state of Texas. And so for myself, I can imagine that that's a resource that we'll want to continue and sustain. The other sort of activity that we've been allowed to use is the Atlas program, where we've been using some videos from expert teachers from around the nation. So that is also another initiative that we want to keep. So while some of our initiatives will go away when we're allowed to go back, we've identified some key opportunities to sustain programs that we know will support our neophytes in training. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone, for answering that question. I would like to see if Tamara Walderon can come up on camera. She actually had a couple of questions that I think would bear asking on the camera, if she wouldn't mind. Tamara, are you still with us?
Thanks, Jody. I'm here. Can you see me and hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. So my first question was, how are teachers handling the loss of instructional time due to COVID-19 precautions? And that was to touch on some of the things that Sam was talking about her placement in classroom through Aggie Turner. And then also, are teachers being flexible with the grading and due dates due to the technological issues that have arisen due to this crazy time that is COVID?
Good questions. Thank you. Sam, you've been in the classroom alongside your cooperating teacher. How flexible has your cooperating teacher been in terms of supporting those babies in the classroom and with homework and assignments? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so in particular, the Caldwell School District, the math class that I'm currently in, isn't super homework heavy. So how it works is the students have a 90-minute block. The teacher then teaches for about 45 minutes, and then they have the rest of the time to then work on their assignment sheet. She's also then able to pull students for small groups to work with them individually if they are not understanding the curriculum. But one thing that I wanted to mention, the teacher that I'm currently observing, she is teaching 3 90-minute blocks of math, and then she has a partner teacher that is teaching 2 blocks of math in the school with the students coming to her, and then 1 block is completely online. So she then works with those students and separates them into breakout rooms and small group rooms to work with them individually. But it's been a struggle getting certain students accustomed to Google Meets and Google Classroom, that are 2 main websites that the teachers are using at Caldwell. And it's also been a struggle for the teachers because the students are submitting the work late, like I mentioned before. So for example, students are, let's say that they have a test that's due on Friday, students are completing it about a week late. So that's another enormous struggle, and how they're dealing with that is that they sent out a message, and if students don't complete it on the required day, then each day after, they drop 10 points from the grade that they could have gotten on the test. And then I also wanted to mention another thing is that the biggest fear in all of this at-home and virtual learning is that the parents will be assisting their student or their child throughout homework assignments and test grades. So that is the biggest fear in all of this, especially since they're looking and considering the STAR test to be online. That's the biggest fear in having at-home learning and curriculum, so that the parent could potentially help the student answer the question.
Hey, Sam, Melanie Toller asked a follow-up question, said very interesting to what you were just saying. She said, how do you compare this year to, say, last year when you were doing your senior methods and, something like that?
Yes, so actually, I, kind of a backstory, I was also on the Texas A&M swimming team, so I wasn't able to complete senior methods at the same time that I was swimming, so I decided to actually add a minor in English. So fall of my junior year, I completed junior methods, or fall of my senior year, pardon. I completed my junior methods, and then spring of my senior year, I completed my English minor, and then right now I'm currently in senior methods. And so the big transition that I've noticed is just, one, I was in the Bryan School District for junior methods, and now I'm in Caldwell, and both school districts are very similar, and I really enjoyed shadowing and observing both of them. But I think the big thing that I've noticed is all of the procedures that have been in place. So for example, like I stated before, having to wipe down all of the tables between each and every class. In our classroom in particular, it's not that challenging because my teacher, there's 2 of us, so it's a little bit easier. Whereas if the teacher is the only one in that room, it's a little bit more challenging to have all the students stand up, wait for me to wipe down all of the tables and things like that. Another big challenge, like I was saying, is sharing materials. Students want to help other students all the time, but that's been a huge struggle to be like, you can't touch their paper, or you can't touch their pencil or their glue stick. You can't share with each other. So that's been the biggest thing that I've noticed between the transition from last year to now this year.
I'd like to add on to that, if I may, if that's all right.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Jordan.
So my name is Jordan Donnup. I am a recent 4+1 graduate. I graduated this summer, so the very most recent cohort. Last year, I went into 4+1 full-time right after graduating with my degree from interdisciplinary studies here from Texas A&M. So I did 1 year being an instructional assistant for first grade at ILT in College Station while I finished and when COVID started, and I'm now 3 weeks into teaching bilingual kindergarten in Cy-Fair. So I'm definitely kind of in the same boat as Sam, maybe just, I don't know, one ocean over. I'm a year ahead of her. But it's been very interesting to kind of see the shift going from doing junior to senior to student teaching to being an instructional assistant to then being now a neophyte kindergarten teacher. I can speak to how teachers are addressing the change in demands and coping with educational time loss and content time loss based on how my school district responded when COVID just started and how my new district is responding now. At the beginning, it was kind of just, and still is, a kind of do your best mentality. When it comes to grading and flexibility with students, at the end of last year from March to May, it was kind of, we encouraged them to do their best, but nobody was being held accountable. Like no student was going to be held back because of zeros or if they went off grid or if they weren't completing work. It would all be based on their performance up to when COVID started in spring break. That's how the district I was working for handled it then. I still have many friends and colleagues there that they have entered the new school year with a different mindset because we're having to start the school year this way. They're trying to hold students more accountable. And my school district now in Cy-Fair is doing the same thing. However, as a kindergarten teacher, we don't give many number grades. And it's not taken, I wouldn't say as seriously, but it's not to the same level as, say, a high schooler who's worried about rank or getting into colleges or things like that. But we have seen, as Sam mentioned, some of our kindergartners are now reading on a 3rd grade level on ISIP. So we think that they're getting extra help from home. So our data as teachers, and especially as my first year, I don't know how dependable it is. We've talked that over as teams and with our ISs and things like that. And it's really kind of boiled down to us having to pull each of our students individually like we would do in the classroom in breakout rooms. I feel like that would work much better for middle or high school students, but I have kindergartners that are still trying to learn Zoom and then having to navigate off of Zoom to go onto Schoology to complete all of their assignments. It's been very stressful for them and their parents. So not only have we lost content time of last year due to COVID, but we're losing content time now trying to teach how to do school again. And that's been very challenging. I know personally in Cy-Fair, teachers have had 15 minutes added to their contract day every day. That started this school year. So we now have longer school hours to try and meet those COVID demands. And then sadly, I think everywhere, I'm a member of several, not only Facebook groups, but kind of like forums where educators meet and discuss problems and things like that. And unfortunately, a lot of things that make primary very joyful and developmentally appropriate are being stripped away for more content focus, as we feel like the hourglass is running out way faster than even we feel on a normal school year. So a lot of our time is filled, unfortunately, playing tech support. And I guess the last thing I want to say is, although there's so much awesome things with like the Aggie Homework Help Center and things like that, I think it's amazing for these high school and maybe middle school students. But some of these babies that need that kind of extra help, I feel right now as a neophyte teacher, I feel that I'm failing them because I am spending so much time having to teach these, my parents that don't speak my language. I'm an intermediate Spanish speaker, so we're trying to navigate language barriers, economic barriers, technical barriers, all the while trying to provide their kids the best education that I know how through my experience with Texas A&M. So I feel like content-wise, I'm losing a lot of time. And I feel like you're going to see differences between my kids. I have 7 kids in person. I have 8 kids online, and I teach hybrid. So the bilingual program, on top of everyone losing content time, is losing a ton of content time because the way they made it work is they have to go to their English teacher and then their Spanish teacher. They basically had to cut my minutes. So all my non-bilingual partner teachers have, say, their regular writing block given to them by the district, say, is 90 minutes. Okay, well, my writing block is now 30 because I'm having to teach both languages in the same amount of time, but they still want the kids to do rotations. So I'm virtual English in the morning, in-person English in the afternoon. I switch my babies with my partner and I teach from school. So they get far less block time than their straight English mainstream counterparts. So with all the barriers kind of we're already having, that's kind of disappointed me the most, is because my my colleagues can do so much more, especially center-wise, which most of it has been cut because of safety procedures, than my students can, because I literally have less time in the day. My minutes do not look the same as my partners in order to keep the bilingual program afloat.
Thanks, Jordan. I appreciate your thoughts. Dr. Wijakumar, earlier you had put a comment in chat when Tamara had first asked her questions. Would you mind coming on camera and speaking to what you had mentioned a minute ago?
Yeah, so our partner districts, they actually took a look at how the children were performing at the end of, just before the pandemic happened. And then they made the decision that at the beginning of this academic year, that they would go ahead and reteach some of the skills from the last, I think, 12 weeks of the previous academic year. And so they actually worked with us to plan out the lessons for third grade, end of year, for the fourth grade teacher to start with, and so on. And what that did, actually, it worked out very nicely for the children, because it kind of gave them more confidence in what they were supposed to have finished last year, even though they went online. And that actually smoothed out a little bit of the bumps. Now we are 6 weeks into the academic year, the new year, and we actually have had meetings with the teachers continuously during this time. And all of a sudden, things have clicked back into place for most of those students. So I'm very happy with that kind of approach that we helped them set up. And things have been extremely successful with those schools.
Thank you, Dr. Wijakumar. Tamara Walderon had a follow-up question to what you just stated. Will that result in them not being able to finish this year's content?
We have been discussing this with them, and I think the decision was made that they will be able to catch up as soon as they get the basic foundational skills done. And so we've actually revisited some of the major peaks, and we've kind of reorganized the year at a glance. That's what they call the skills and scope and sequence that are laid out. And so we've kind of reorganized it a little bit so that they can actually get all of the skills that they're supposed to be learning this year. So we're pretty confident that, at least in those districts that we're working in, that these children will be able to get the full year at a glance. So.
Great. Last question.
May I chime in, Jody?
Yes, go ahead, Dr. Etchels.
Sorry, I'll keep it short. I got my eye on the time. I know everybody's dinner's ready. I was just going to say, I think that we've had a lot of attention whilst we went to COVID. A lot of schools maintain their focus on achievement. And I'll share the research that we did in the chat box with everybody. But I think one of the things we're really going to have to think a lot about is the mental health of teachers and children. And especially for programs like ours at A&M, how do we integrate that into our teacher education program, and how do we nestle those mental health skills into what we do, so that when teachers hit the field, they're ready to cope with what they're entering. And then for the teachers out in the field, for schools themselves, how do they cope with that, and how are schools catering to those mental health needs? And very quick example, for example, in the UK, children are now exhibiting double the anxiety levels that they were before COVID. So there's an effect on children, there's an effect on teachers, there's an effect on parents, and sort of the mental health piece really needs ramping up on this one. That's all I was going to add, Jody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Etchels. Two more questions. The next one, I want to ask Brock Nelson to come on screen. He had a question specifically for Sam.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry. No, I don't have a camera on this device. So Sam, Brock Nelson up here in Kansas. Great to get to meet you, at least via Zoom. I'm just curious, and this is a little bit unrelated directly to the topic, but I'm just curious, what what are you and your friends and classmates seeing that the college could do at A&M to improve the academic situation, given all the interruptions and the other issues under the COVID world?
Yes, so I know there has been a lot of talk. I know first things first, everyone wants to be back in the field, but understand that can't happen as of right now. But the College of Education and Human Development, I think, has made a tremendous transition. Like stated before, the Atlas videos are awesome in class. We've been watching those. Our assignment is basically watch the lesson. It's about 15 minutes, and then read the overview about what the lesson is about and different accommodations that are being taken place inside of the classroom that maybe you weren't able to see within the 15 minutes. Also, Sim School is a great resource. I know we talked about that before, but it's basically a virtual simulation so that you as a teacher, you teach for roughly 15 minutes, and then you're able to go to each student and then decipher. There's a profile for each student, and it says like what their accommodations or modifications are, their energy level, things like that. And I feel like that is an awesome resource that even in the classroom, I don't get to know that because, you know, it's just different via a simulation and being in person as well. Also, the technology classes are phenomenal. I think through A&M, and now looking back at it, I really am thankful for that class, EDCI 365. It's an awesome class, and I look back at my notes still to this day because I'm using those resources, like I said before, like Nearpod and other things like that. One thing that or a couple of things that I think that the College of Education could maybe implement is having more Zooms like this, having teachers or student teachers that are currently in the field share their experiences with students that aren't able to go into the field, so that they are able to grasp some understanding of what is actually going on inside of the classroom today, because it has changed tremendously from year to year. Also, Google Classroom has been utilized in Caldwell at least, and I think Google Classroom training is super important. During one of our professional development programs, we were actually trained on Google Classroom. And so I think that would be another awesome opportunity. And also creating assignments such as recording lessons, because a lot of teachers are having to record their lesson and then post it on their Google Classroom. So just creating these assignments that can directly be used next year when we enter the classroom, I think is awesome.
Thanks. One final question. You missing the 20 hours a week in the pool under Steve's close eye?
No, not at all. I know. It's definitely different transitioning into the professional world, but yeah, I try to visit the pool every once in a while. But even like athletics is having a super crazy time right now. For instance, swimmers are having to come to the pool with their mask on, jump in the pool, get out of the pool, put their mask back on. So just a crazy time we're living in right now, but I'm glad to be done. That's for sure.
So we're very fortunate to have Sam. You know, as I mentioned in chat, we always are very strategic when we have students as a part of something like this, because we've learned over the years that nobody wants to follow a student when it comes to speaking. And with that, I believe that Melanie Toller has one last question, and I believe it might be for the Dean, and then we're going to ask the Dean to come back on screen. So Melanie?
Jody, you set me up. You said you don't ever have anyone follow a student.
But it's a question, so.
Well, hearing from Sam and Jordan was quite an eye-opener. You can only empathize to some degree with the situation in the classroom. And so it was really as I said, an eye-opener to have them share their stories. And on the whole, I think everyone agrees that this has been a really great program. Sam, you're right. More of this needs, to be done and could be very, very helpful. So, and Jordan, I just want to say it breaks my heart to hear you talk. Keep the faith and the passion, because we heard Dr. Hill Jackson assure us that COVID is going to end and we're going to get back to normal. So I love her positivity, and man, I hope she's right, and I hope it comes fast. So all of this has created all kinds of adjustments, requirements for flexibility, new programs, enhanced programs. And of course, my question is always, well, where's the money coming from for all of this? And do we have enough? Are we doing enough? So that's my question. And maybe it's really more for Dean Alexander, but do we have the financial needs to do the support that's needed? And if not, what are those needs?
Thank you, Melanie. I'm going to let Dean Alexander come on screen and hopefully speak to that.
Yeah, Melanie, you've raised a great question, I think, for everyone. This year it was not a situation of, well, do we have the money? That really wasn't the option. We had to find the money because we couldn't stop doing business. We couldn't stop training teachers. We know it's too important for the state of Texas for us to do everything we can to prepare these teachers to be the best that they can be. So, the one thing that 99% of the folks don't know on this call, I think maybe Valerie's the only one who does know, I think we've spent about $500,000 in scholarship, in software for video capture and the Sims, and we have invested because we had to invest. And I think, as Valerie has said, that much of that we will continue to be able to use, so it's not just a COVID expense. We've signed 3-year deals with many of these software companies because we are pretty sure that these are quality enough products for us to integrate as we go forward. But there's also been the new programs, the homework hotline and other kinds of things, while the federal government gives us some work study funds to run much of that. It's really been us finding ways to use the resources we do have to pivot quickly and to do new things. Dr. Widya Kumar's work is really supported by federal grants right now and by the school districts themselves. That won't last forever. So, you raise a good question. We've learned about a lot of great work that's going on across the college, and there's always needs. What I'd like to do is see us have more money, especially for students like Sam, to do full year student teaching. We work with the Texas Education Agency through a grant that Valerie Hill Jackson wrote, and we're able to pay students like Sam a stipend of about $15,000. And what that does is it sets them up to not have to work during student teaching. It allows them to really concentrate on what they're doing, not take on more debt, because these are our unsung heroes, and we don't need them to have more debt. So if we could do a little bit more of that, I would be thrilled. So whether you're interested in supporting the programs you've heard tonight or the students that really shine as they leave Texas A&M, we could use a little help. We're okay, we're doing all right. But in order to move this forward and really have the full impact, some additional support would be perfect. So Jody, what's left on our agenda?
That is it. As Dean Alexander mentioned, we would encourage you to, if you have the opportunity, not only to go to the links that you saw in chat. So early on, I had put a link in there about the Aggie Homework Helpline. Dr. Etchels had put in a link about his work and the paper that they wrote. You know, I understand that Jordan had a part in that. So, but if you would like to support, or you know people that would like to support these amazing programs or other things, please feel free to go to give.am/impactchd. What that will do is it will take you to the Texas A&M Foundation Giving website. It will actually pre-populate into our college level Dean's Excellence Award. When you get down to section 3 in there, there's a section where you can actually put a note in there that says, you know, I would like to support the Aggie Homework Helpline. I would like to support students such as Samantha Siebenaller. I would like to support Kay Widjikamar's work in reading and literacy. I would like to support, you know, something else. And so I would encourage you, if you have the opportunity to do that, to please go, because there's not any thing more important, at least in Jody Ford's mind, than educating these early childhood through 12th graders, because without them, we don't have Aggies. And so thank you, everyone, again. I can't echo it enough for giving us time out of your evening to hear about these amazing faculty and our students, you know, and all that they are doing and all that they're encountering.
Well, good night, everyone, and thank you to Valerie and the unsung hero, which is Cassidy. She was our back in support for all of this, kept us all moving forward. One of our students here at Texas A&M, another great representative of who we are as Aggies. So thanks to all of you. We want to end on time. Good night. Thanks for sharing your dinner hour with us. Bye-bye.